You have fell into that same trap. Listening to your presentation proves you do not have an accurate fact base upon which you are working. Every fact you have cited in your statement is wrong, and it is propaganda of the vilest sort. Let's start with the money, Bobby. The money, the billions that you say Hamas has. What are your sources? Shmuley Botek, your rabbi advisor, or maybe some other people in Israel. I've done the research on this, Bobby. There are no sources. You can go to a 2014 article that quotes an obscure reserve colonel in the Israeli Defense Force who is teaching at West Galilee University, who says that Arab sources claim that this is the case. Bobby, if that's your source, you're wrong. You don't have any evidence that they are billionaires, and yet you're spouting it as if it's fact. That's dangerous, Bobby. The water pipes weren't put there because Israel felt good for them, had goodness out of their heart for the Palestinians. They were there because these wonderful Israeli citizens you speak of in Gaza, they were illegal settlers, Bobby, illegal settlers. They weren't there legitimately. That's why Israel pulled them out and their wonderful homes and everything, illegally occupying Palestinian territory. You know, you said that one accurate thing you said was that the Palestinians are in refugee camps, Bobby. And you said, why don't they build good houses? Bobby, because that's not where they belong. They're in refugee camps. They belong in their homes, in their land, the land that is illegally occupied by Israel to this day. Bobby, don't just take my words. In 2004, the International Court of Justice passed an opinion that has the weight of international law that says straight up that Israel is an occupying power. You want to be an American president, Mr. Kennedy? Then respect the Constitution. And the Constitution requires you to respect the United Nations Charter. And the United Nations Charter has listed the International Court of Justice as the preeminent arbiter of international law. So under international law, Israel is an illegal occupying authority, power. That's it. And the pipes that the Palestinians dug up were pipes laid down by an illegitimate occupier to support illegal settlements. And yes, the Palestinians turned in them weapons, Bobby. We know this. We see them fired every day. But what would you have them do, Bobby? Would you have the Minutemen at Concord and Lexington turn in their muskets to the British because the British took umbrage? How about the Israelis themselves, Bobby? What do you think happened in 1946, 47, 48? You talk about the tunnels. You talk about Hamas going underground. What do you think Haganah, Palmach, Irgun, and the other Israeli resistance forces did, Bobby? You might want to do the research on the Ayalon Institute, Bobby, and find out how the Israelis themselves dug an underground ammunition factory under a kibbutz specifically manned with teenagers, Bobby. Teenagers using civilians as cover. So let's not get on your high horse. Israel is an illegal occupying power. The Palestinians have every right to resist, and resist they do. You speak of fuel, Bobby. Be careful here, pal. I'm the missile expert. You're not. Don't repeat the garbage that you've been given by the Israelis. You don't use gasoline in these in these rockets. The rockets are powered by sugar and fertilizer, Bobby. Sugar and fertilizer. There's no gasoline involved whatsoever. So please don't equate the two. And you know, Bobby, that when the gasoline goes in, here's the other thing, the proof that it continues to be an occupying power. Everything that goes into Gaza has to go through what's called the Kogat. That's the Israeli occupying governmental agency for the territories. The civilian liaison administration, CLA of Gaza, they control everything that happens in Gaza to this day. You speak of water. How about do some research on Military Order 158, Bobby? And you understand that Israel's military controls every aspect of the water that goes into Gaza, every aspect of the water that takes place in the West Bank. It is an occupying authority, Bobby. So you need to be careful with your facts. Get your facts straight. But more importantly, you need to be careful with your principles. Please don't ever use that Mexico analogy again. That was embarrassing because America doesn't flatten anything, Bobby, and we damn sure don't flatten Mexico. We don't flatten cities. That's not what we do. Because when we go to war, and you would be an American president, commander in chief of the American military, so don't insult me or anybody else who wore the uniform by implying that we would participate in any effort to flatten Mexico. What an absurd analogy to use. It's a violation of international law. It's a violation of everything we stand for. It's a violation of the principles that I took an oath to uphold and defend. The same oath you would take as president. So don't ever do that again, Bobby. And be careful when you start legitimizing what Israel is doing. Do some research on the Dahiyah principle or doctrine. In 2006, Israel initiated a policy of mass repression, collective punishment. It is a de facto violation of the law of war. The Israelis stipulate that the purpose is to provide so much punishment to a civilian population that they would pressure their government to change. They started in 2006. They've been doing it ever since, and it's happening right now in Gaza. This isn't precision targeting, Bobby. Ask the IDF about the artificial intelligence they use. Let me give you a hint here, pal. When Hamas launched its attack on October 7th, they compromised Israel's intelligence. They compromised the human intelligence networks. They compromised the signals intelligence network. This means that Israel's flying blind in Gaza. So Israel's not operating on insider knowledge. Israel uses an artificial intelligence program called, I believe it's the Habsora, or the Gospel. Basically, they have mapped out the entire neighborhoods in Gaza. Every building, they know when they drop a bomb on point A, how many civilian casualties would take place. This is done deliberately, Bobby. It's murder. It's genocide. You can't support it. 6,000 American-made bombs dropped by hundreds of American-made aircraft flown by Israeli pilots. They are violating American law. Our own law says we can't provide weapons to states that violate international law. And this is what Israel does on a daily basis. You want to be the commander in chief. You serve the American people. You don't serve the Israeli people. You serve the national security interests of the United States. You don't serve the national security interests of Israel. As I've pointed out, it's not just what happened in Beirut, Bobby. Maybe you want to take a look at the USS Liberty when Israel attacked us in 1967. Maybe you want to look at Jonathan Pollard and the spying he did against the United States, how Israel took his secrets and then traded them to our enemy, the Soviet Union, to get more Jewish immigrants out of the Soviet Union. That's not what a friend does, Bobby. Israel's not our friend. They're leading us down the wrong path, and you're being led down the wrong path. You want to be the candidate of peace. That's why I supported you. That's why I was on your side. But after just listening to you speak and listening to what you've said about Israel, you're the candidate of war. You're the candidate of genocide. You're the candidate we don't want to be president. Change your ways on Israel, Bobby, or you're going to lose this election.